Writing your holistic context. This is where we start, and you really need to dig deep on this one. For me, I feel it's a crucial element that you should really complete, at least work extensively on, before you begin designing your landscape and setting out what it is you want to do practically. I never set out to be a chicken farmer. I had no intention of being a chicken farmer. I never even ate chicken before I started raising pastured poultry here at Ridgedale. But it fits my context. And equally, the moment that this enterprise, because it has some flaws, pastured broilers, is an enterprise that involves still grain production and, you know, big scale hatcheries. The moment that it doesn't fit my context, I will quit then. And I'm already planning. Part of the beauty of holistic management is that if you make decisions that you know don't meet your longest term objectives, then you already plan in what you're going to do about it. For me, I wanted to start with pastured poultry because it's profitable, it's easy, it's modular and scalable, which fits I have two main purposes here. One is to make a living as a farmer, and the other is to educate others to get them started the same, because I see a real lack of venues teaching people about this kind of stuff in a profitable, practical way. However, to come here and just produce pastured ducks or geese that nobody actually eats yet would be a little naive. So in order to build a relationship with customers, I need to have a high quality product that they find reliable, valuable, nutritious, etc. And then start the process of educating. Because I'm not getting into vast amounts of debt, and because all my enterprises pay themselves off so quickly, it won't be long before I have the opportunity to move towards my highest ideals, and the financial aspect will be less heavy. But you really have to be clear when you start up a farm, it's like a bottomless pit that you can throw money into, and you must focus on enterprises that pay back initially. Putting in wonderful silver pasture systems and water systems, all this great stuff that we can do, never pays itself back in a quick manner. So we need enterprises that pay back quickly. So I'm saying that because it's contextual, and your context is based around fundamentally the belief that to be regenerative we must be restoring nutrient and water cycles, carbon cycles in the soil, building habitat and making our landscapes better than they were before. We must be making a living and benefiting our community, and our customers must be happy. We need those economic, ecological, societal kind of legs to our stool, or it won't function, it won't work. History shows us that. And a lot of people we work in, when we run our internships at the farm, the first thing we do is have people start working on their holistic context. And we don't go anywhere till that's done. It's so critical that people get clear about this, because decision making becomes very much more simple and fluid and dynamic once we're clear about what it is we manage, what resources are available to us, and most importantly, the quality of life that we're looking to create in our work. So this is a process that involves a few steps that I'm going to run through now. I would like people to really use the peer support of the forum so that people can see each other's and bounce back and forward with each other. The tendency is that people don't dig deep enough. And really, for me, helping people do this over many years now is trying to get people to go underneath. Some people will come with a fixed attitude of how life should look, and that's a recipe for failure in my mind. I'm going to have an agroforestry system. When you come with that mentality, you then start imposing yourself on a landscape, and in a worst case scenario you start trying to make something work that doesn't work. Either it doesn't fit the landscape, doesn't work economically, you don't have the skills or resources to pull it off. And yet we're habitually patterned to banging our heads against the wall trying to make something work that doesn't work. Holistic management and defining your holistic context really gives us a powerful platform to deal with the complexity of all the different aspects we have to deal with by nature in farming. That's economy, ecology and society. All complex, all unpredictable and evolving in ways that we can't see or foresee. It gives us a fluid way to navigate these things. And so for me it's an essential aspect. You need to begin with this part, post it up online, hear comments back and forth from people, because you will see things in others' contexts that, that sums up better how I relate to it. Or no, I don't agree with that. For me it looks like this. The important thing is you know what it means and you've dug deep to get to the bottom layer of it. A lot of people get stuck with this because they're not familiar with following some sort of regimented way of writing down how they feel about their life. But mostly I find people are not encouraged for most of their life to get clear about what it is that they value. What do you value in your life as a family, as a business, as an individual? And so we'll follow the steps step by step, and I'll point out some of the things I think are critical to arriving at a clear and defined holistic context. And really this begins by defining the whole under management. What is it that we actually manage? And that includes three parts really. It includes the decision makers. You need to define who is it that makes decisions in your family, in your enterprise, your farm. What I found as well with this process is it's much more challenging to do this as an individual when you don't have a project in mind. If you and your family have bought a farm and off you go, it's much more alive to do this because you've got these questions coming up naturally. So that will make a difference, but you can apply this to a household, an individual, to a government, to anything. But who has veto power? Essentially. Like at our farm, we have many people coming here and we have a core team of farm managers who are trained and then take responsibility for different enterprises here. But they don't have veto power. They can't spend 20,000 euros on a machine without our decision making. They can't decide to go plant some trees in the middle of the paddock where it's inappropriate, for example. But they can obviously make day-to-day decisions. Now, you know, this whole holistic management framework is for testing big decisions to check that they lead towards the holistic context that we're about to construct and define. We don't need this for small decisions about, you know, crossing the road. It's instinctive, it's intuitive. We don't need to consider these things. We know how to do this. But whether I should be a chicken farmer or a pig farmer is a decision that needs testing. Shall I use the Keyline plough or create swales? That's a decision that needs testing in our context. And there's a whole lot of work to do to get to that. But as I said before, this is critical and absolutely fundamental as the starting place for design work. Do your holistic context before you venture on to starting to design the landscape and enterprises that will suit you. So we need to know who are decision makers. In our case, that's Johanna and myself. We need to know our resource base. Now, we wrote out our resource base using the 8 forms of capital, which you can have a look at on 8forms.org, the work of Ethan Rowland Gregory Landau, who wrote Regenerative Enterprise. We wrote all the forms of capital out and listed all the resources we had, perceived and actual. And so I recommend reading that book. It's a fantastic short summary of what it is to make a regenerative enterprise. And then we need to look at money. So existing money. We need to look at debts and other income streams, etc. We need to get crystal clear about what it is we have financially to work with. Once you've done this, then you start to write your statement of purpose. This is the sort of thing you would find on the front page of a website. So this is where we start defining your holistic context. If you read the old work of Alan Savory, you'll hear this referred to as a holistic goal. But a goal is a kind of fixed place that we're trying to get to. And just like a forest system is never in a climax state, it's in a state of dynamic equilibrium to ensure the survival of each layer of succession as a repair mechanism. The same pattern applies here. We don't need to have goals we can have short-term goals within our business, but what we really need is a context, the boundary conditions within which we make decisions and navigate our actions on the land or in our business. So the statement of purpose is present tense, and in our case we have two main arms to our business. One is to regenerate the landscape, the ecosystem processes and soils, habitats here, through profitable and scalable enterprises. And the second arm in our statement of purpose is to educate and empower others to do the same. So it's a clearly defined paragraph that sums up what it is we're trying to do. And then we need to move on and look at the quality of life statements. Now, this is something to emphasize, is that you should do this in order, and because each step builds upon the previous one. It's important not to jump steps, like work your way through, and you might spend weeks doing this. Typically when people come here to the farm, they have a holistic management training and they begin this and start sketching it out, and then we all come together like we can do on the forum here, and they share their holistic context, and then that allows us to make comments and help define and refine and dig deeper when it's necessary. People often come in with, I want life to look a certain way, but really if you get underneath that, you should be able to meet your quality of life statements regardless of your life circumstance. I want to have access to high quality seasonal local food. Well, I could do that living on my farm. I could do that in the middle of a big city. My actions would be different. What I need to do to procure those resources is different, but I can still achieve that quality of life. You know, they're not dependent, what I'm saying is they're not dependent on life looking any particular way, because life constantly changes and moves, and you will set yourself up for disappointment if you come with a fixed mentality. The whole point of this, in my experience, is to make us dynamic and flexible with management, always keeping an eye on the whole picture. So if you get stuck on this, you could ask yourself some questions and write down a few things to stimulate your thinking, like what do you appreciate most about your life today? Like write 3 or 4 things down. What do you love about your life? Add a few points of which things would you absolutely not want changed in your life, and what about things you do want to change as a family, as an individual. If you're doing this as a family, or you know, with business partners, you might want to do this on your own first, because it's quicker to clarify your own thoughts. You should always have some points about your time. Time is going to be the limiting factor if you run a project or a farm. How do you want your time to look? How about money? Should definitely include something about money. And it should include something about relationships as a minimum. But just start playing with ideas. You don't need to have polished, finished statements. You just need to try and identify the core things that you value in your life. And that will lead us. These should be, I should say, they should be written in present tense, as though you already have achieved them. That helps you sort of live into them and think, yeah, is this really what I want? For example, one of my quality of life statements that we probably all share is, I would like to be debt-free and financially secure. I'm not debt-free right now. I've got debt that I've taken on that I can manage. But I write it here as, I am debt-free and financially stable. Great. That's going to lead us to our next points, because the next step here is your forms of production. And people get a little stuck here sometimes because it sounds like a physical thing such as I'm going to grow some wheat. But that's not the point of forms of production. It's what you are going to commit to. What am I committing to do to achieve my quality of life? No one's giving you a free lunch. I want to be debt-free and financially secure and stable. Okay, what do I need to commit to do that? For every quality of life statement you have, there should be at least one, probably multiple forms of production that you're committing yourself as an individual, as a business, as a family, to meeting that quality of life. So to be debt-free and financially stable, I need to have what? I need to have a business plan, and I need to have good accounting, and I need to monitor that plan regularly to see if I'm going to end up where I set out to at the start of the year. I need to have a certain type of relationship with customers. I must behave in a certain way, and this is where we get led to our future resource base. And this is really getting us to ask the question, what does our land look like in the future? What does our behavior look like in the future? How must I act and behave to achieve this quality of life? So I must have honest, clear communication. I must be accountable. I must be transparent and have returning customers who are satisfied with the quality of the products and the value of their products. My landscape must be regenerating. My soil must be building carbon. My species in my pasture must be getting more diverse and rich each year in order to achieve my desire to be debt-free and financially stable if I'm running a grazing operation, for example. So the future resource base is, how do you want your land to be so that your great-great-grandkids could have that same quality of life that you decide you want? And how must you behave and act in order to achieve that? It's only once this is all done, and this could be something that you start and get a draft out there on the forum, and we'll all interact and share points and considerations to help refine this over time. Then we can start using the holistic management testing questions. There's 7 questions. When you're testing, should I run beef or should I run chicken? You follow these questions in order and mark down your decision making. You keep it on a sheet that's supplied in the notes, and you print it out and put it in a folder. And there you keep a record of all your big decisions. And also notes on what you need to do if you know you've had to make a decision that compromises one of the legs, the pillars of your operation, be it economic, social, or ecological. So that you can say, right, I'm making this decision to run pasture broilers because it fits my economy, it makes my soil better through fertilization, it improves the nutrient water cycling. But I don't like being attached to industrial hatcheries. So I'm running this for 5 years, all going well, building up a customer base, and I'm going to start running experiments with turkeys and ducks next year and building up data to allow me to plan the enterprise. So then you can review your decisions and the actions you said that you would take and keep managing towards your holistic context. Now, some people it will take less time than others. It might take some of you months to just keep going back to this. It's a constant moving process and highly, highly important. I think it's the fundamental foundation, and I've never seen a better way to frame decision making as a matrix. And so I'd like everyone to really focus on this and start posting this out into the forum, and we will start interacting with each other to see if we can encourage each other to dig deeper. And that'll become clearer and clearer as we go, and there are more examples of this put up online.